All right. Morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mark and group.
The floor is yours when ready, sir.
Thank you. Thought practice has been good this week. This has been a team that's practiced well every day. They did it in the spring and they've done it in preseason and coming out of practice, they are coming out of the game Saturday. They're still continuing to do the same thing. I worried that last year when somebody would play well, like our offense played well the other night, they wouldn't compete as hard in practice the next week. And offense has done a good job this week, and defense has obviously picked it up, because when you play a game, it exposes some of the things you don't see in practice. We said that the other day. You don't hit as much, you don't scrimmage as much. So you may not realize you're not tackling as well as you want to because you're having so much stud in practice, or you may not realize you weren't quite getting to the quarterback, or your protection wasn't as good because they were getting there, but they were running by. So when you start looking at the advantage for us playing a game is that we've been exposed. We know all the problems we've got. App State knows all the problems we've got, and we've got to fix them. And the advantage for them, they've seen our schemes. They know our personnel, so they know exactly what we're going to bring to Boone this weekend. From our standpoint, the disadvantage is we don't know who they're going to play for sure. They've got some new faces on defense. They've got a new offensive coordinator, so it's definitely a second opener for us, and openers are tough. So those things are things that our guys understand. They've just got to continue to improve. A lot of talk about winning on the road. You went on the road because you play better. I did. I had Jeremy go back last night. The first year we were 4-3 on the road, and our 3 losses were a close game to Wake Forest and over 6 overtimes with Virginia Tech and overtime at Pitt. So those were really, really close games, and we didn't finish on the 3. The others, we beat South Carolina at Georgia Tech, beat South Carolina and Charlotte, at Georgia Tech, at NC State and Temple at a neutral site. Then the second year we were 3-3. We beat Boston College on the road in a tight game. We beat Duke and Miami pretty badly. And then the 3 losses were Florida State by 3 points, Virginia by 3 points, and we had A&M in a tight game with 5 minutes left in the Orange Bowl. So all those games have been tight, and the next year we just didn't do well. We didn't do well as a team. We were 0-6. So it's not as much about why aren't you winning on the road as you got to play well, and you got to continue to play to that high level of standard of excellence. And it's harder to win on the road than it is at home because of the crowd, because you're staying in a different place. Everything seems tougher. More momentum changes when you're on the road. So this team's got a great challenge to be able to go to Boone and try to flip that switch. I understand why people think they should be the favorite. I agree with them. I think they've got every advantage, and we're going to have to do a great job of playing better defense than we played the other night. And we've got to play better offense. They'll have better scheme with pass rush, and they'll come after us more. And we're not free of sacks and tackles for loss by any means until we get into the season and make sure that we continue to improve those things. As far as in-state games, we're 7-3. We've beaten Duke 3 times. We've beaten State twice. We've beaten Wake Forest twice. We lost to Wake 24-18 in our first year. We lost to App State 34-31 in our first year, and we lost to NC State by 4 points last year. So those games have been close. They've been tight. So this one should be the same way this weekend. I was looking at yesterday. I was told that there's 5 transfers starting at quarterback in the ACC, and I thought, what a great job Phil Longo's done of getting our quarterback room where it needs to be. We've got a lot of quarterbacks that can play, and people don't. And to have 5 transfers starting in a league that's as good as anybody in the country in quarterbacks is really a great compliment to Phil, that we didn't have to do that. Legend Cavazos as well. So he is practicing at corner this week. So he should have a chance to be ready to play some. Antoine Green is running. He even caught a few balls today. So he's making tremendous progress. So hopefully he'll be back in that 6 to 10 week window that we were talking about. As far as App State's concerned, we said Sean Clark's done a tremendous job. He's just an extension of Coach Jerry Moore. Coach Moore would run the inside zone, the outside zone, and be very, very physical and very fundamentally sound. They've done an outstanding job of evaluating. It's amazing that they've changed head coaches, they've changed coordinators, and they're still the same. They're still good at what they do. Those young people play hard, they play with pride, they play with confidence, and you're going to have to compete to win the game. They're not going to help you. They're very, very sound in everything they do. They've got multiple looks and come after you and have good packages on third down on defense. And they're very well coached in their kicking game. You go back to, we've got a rookie quarterback that's never started a game on the road, and they've got a 6-year guy that we've played against 3 times. Cam Peoples and Noel, the 2 running backs are really good. They could play anywhere in the country. They've done a tremendous job of finding these guys and evaluating and getting them there. And they've got a really experienced offensive line that's big and physical and very well taught. And Coach Clark was a great offensive lineman for Stacy Searles and Coach Moore there. And he was an offensive line coach and one of the best in the country. And you can tell that by the way that those guys play. Defensively, you've still got Jordan Earl in the middle, a 5-year junior. This COVID stuff's crazy. When some of these guys that don't go pro can stay for 5 and 6 years. You've got Nick Hampton, who had 11 plus sacks last year, and he's gained a lot of weight and supposedly even much better this year. And he's a pass rusher at the highest level. He's a 5-year junior. And then Stephen Jones is one of the best corners I've seen, number 6. He's a 6-year senior, and he's all over the place and really, really physical. So they're an older team, an experienced team, and one that plays with a lot of confidence. We're excited about the challenge, but like I said, when people say that we should be an underdog going to Boone, I totally understand. With our record on the road last year, even though every team's different, this team hadn't played on the road, they haven't lost on the road. First 2 teams, nobody talked about how good we did on the road, but last year it was evident that we didn't do well on the road. So that'll be important for Saturday afternoon. Questions?
Okay, our first question will come from Mike Solarte. Go ahead.
Mike, I can't hear you. Unmute.
Is that better? How's that? Can you hear me now?
Better.
And you got my
Always
dogs.
better.
Yeah, you got my dogs too. Coach Clark said this week that teams make their biggest gains between weeks 1 and 2. Where do you see your biggest gains coming between games 1 and 2?
Mike, we didn't play well in the secondary. We didn't break on the ball well. We didn't drop to the right zones at linebacker, and we had some gaps that we didn't get in with proper gaps in our front. On the goal line, their big back just knocked us back instead of us stopping him and knocking him back. So all of those are things that we could do better. There's been a lot of talk about not getting a pass rush. If you cover a little bit longer, those pass rush guys would have gotten there. They were there, but you got to cover somebody. You can't just give them wide open shots. And so that's an area we have to improve and have to really improve fast, or they'll have a field day throwing the ball. Offensively, we were pleased with what we did, but there were still a lot of guys close to the quarterback. There were still too many pressures. So we've got to clean that up. We did have the 1 fumble out of bounds. We can't turn the ball over, especially on the road and win. And I didn't think we ran the ball successfully enough in the red zone. We were pounding up inside, but we missed some guys. And I just felt like that, we've got to do a better job of running in the red zone. So a lot of the things that we talked about, we did a little bit better on Saturday night, but they're still there, and there's still issues and things that we've got to fix.
And then just the last one for me, the fact that you're kicking off at high noon, early start, just are you a fan of that? Would you prefer to play later? I mean, you've had some experience playing at the Rock in your career, but for this team in your first road game, is it a better feeling to let's get it on. Let's see what these guys have, or would you prefer a later start?
Yeah, Mike, I'd rather play at 8 in the morning. That would be the best for me if I had my choice. I don't like, I get anxious on game days and I don't want to sit there all day. And we get up, we meet at 6:30 every morning. We practice from 8 to 10, or 10:15. So we're more ready for morning practice than we are at night. We had to design some night practices and scrimmages so we could get more ready for an 8 o'clock game, like the Florida A&M game was, because that's a long day when you're through with your practice by 10:15. So I'm excited that it's a noon game, and only because I like to get up and play. I used to say that you dress, you have pregame meal, then you come to the stadium, you dress, you stretch. We take so long to prepare for a game. My college coach said, get loose on the way to the game and wear your uniform on the bus, get loose, get off the bus, stretch on the way, and let's go kick it off. So I'd rather do that.
Nice, coach.
Okay, let's go over to Michael Coe.
Hey, Mac, you guys, your program and apps seems to recruit in a lot of the same circles. Does it seem like the guys this week are a little more fired up than they would be against Florida A&M, for example?
Mike, when fans are fired up and talking back and forth, players hear that and they feel that, and they're all over social media now, unlike in the past. So yes, regional games and national games to them are very, very important. You've got to live with this win or loss the rest of your life, rest of your career, and you hang out with your buddies, and they've all got buddies on the App State team. So yes. This will have them more stirred up than the opener, I'm sure, even though we're trying to get them to play the same level of standard of excellence every week, regardless of who we play.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Over to CL Brown, please.
Hey, Mac, I wanted to get one more question about your time at App State, or your year at App State. I was wondering, that being your first head coaching gig, is there anything in particular that you learned or you took from that year that, was kind of a seed for when you got back as a head coach at Tulane and moving forward?
Yeah, CL, I call and apologize to all those players and coaches I had on that staff, because I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. So Everett Withers texted me this morning and said, you're going back to App State. He was our captain, to show you how long that's been. And I said, I apologize for whatever I said, whatever I did, because I obviously had no clue. But CL, I think assistants want to be head coaches, and really it's hard to be prepared because there's no book. And it's kind of like being a parent. You learn on the run, and you just have to figure it out when you get there. And I do remember Sparky Woods and I were talking about this morning, our first recruiting weekend, we had 13 young people in. There were 28 inches of snow. I had never seen 28 inches of snow. So we thought we were going to cancel it. And they said, nah, you just get four-wheelers. We'll be fine, coach. And I thought, 28 inches of snow. So 13 of the guys came. 12 of them came in my office, and I asked John Palermo, who was our assistant head coach at the time. We didn't have any money for recruiting, so we didn't have a recruiting video. So I said, go get a university video, just an admissions video. Well, he brought the one for winter sports. Everything was snow. And I was going to say, this was a freak. This was a blizzard. This doesn't ever happen. The whole thing was skiing. And these kids had no interest in skiing. So 12 kids came in my office, and all of them said, Coach, I can't do this, man. It's too cold. I don't like snow. And then John Settle walked in, and he was being recruited at Carolina as a fullback, and we wanted him as a tailback. And we thought he was a great player. And when he walked in, he said, Coach, I love snow, man. This is so much fun. This is great. And I just said, thank you, God. We signed John Settle, and he had 1,000 yards each in 4 years. So, and then played for the Falcons. So that got me started in the head coaching realm right there.
Is there anything that you did in that year that you didn't continue? Like you was like, I'll never do this part again?
I feel like it's just learning everything. You've never hired a staff before, so you try to hire the best coaches you can. I wasn't aware that it needs to fit the place as much as I just wanted great coaches, and they got to fit each other. And that's still something after 34 years you have to really work at doing. And And it's taken us really a 4th year here to get the staff where it is right now. Because we've had some guys leave, but we need guys that fit here and we need guys that want to stay here. It was no different then. And I didn't know that. Trying to figure out what you do with equipment managers and how you handle the trainer and the things that just pop up every day as for a head coach that it's not on your list of things to do that day. You just have to handle it. And so I think when Coach Vince Dooley told me to be a great head coach, you got to take crisis and turn them into positives. See, that's what you really have to learn to do. There's something every day because you've got 120 players, you've got 53 members on your staff, you've got all their families, players and coaches and staff, and you got a lot of egos involved. And then you've got all the high school coaches, you've got all your lettermen, you've got all your alums, you got all your media, local and national. So there's just a lot of things that head coaches get hit with. And if they're a burden for you every time you get something that is uncomfortable, you're not going to make it in this business. You've got to embrace fixing things. And that's just what you have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go over to Richard Adkins.
Hey, Coach, thank you so much for your time, and also congratulations on the win this past weekend. The question I have for you is this road game has the same feeling as last season, opener against Virginia Tech, where the environment is going to be rocking. What would you say is the biggest difference in mental preparation for this game versus last year?
I would think the biggest thing, Richard, is last year. It was a teachable moment for us. We didn't handle it well. We were 2 for 10 on third downs. We gave up 6 sacks. We had 3 turnovers. So offensively, we just didn't handle it well at all. We played well enough to win on defense, but our offense was just atrocious. So you go back and talk to the guys about last year's opener. You go back and talk about last year's first road game, and most of these guys were at that game. So you just tell them that you got to embrace the environment. You've got to love the fact that App State has a tremendous fan base, and they're all going to be there, and they're excited, and they're going to be loud, and that's great. That should be fun for you. And embrace it. And if you didn't like playing in front of big crowds, you shouldn't have come here, because this is big time football. And I mean, so don't tell me, oh my gosh, they're going to have people there. Yeah, that's what you wanted, man. So I think that's the biggest thing is learn from last year. Whatever we did didn't go well as a staff or a team, and make sure that we don't have the sacks we had. Make sure that we're better on third downs, which usually means the sacks got you in trouble on first or second down. And you've got to make sure you take care of the ball on the road, because we had 3 turnovers. It's a very simple process to win. And what you've got to do is do the things that you need to do to win. And that's more important than all the other stuff. And like I said, for a college football player, if he doesn't embrace playing in front of a place that's excited when you come, shouldn't have come here. That ABC thing was started a long time ago. Anybody but Carolina, a lot of people live by that. So we get people excited when we show up.
And one last quick question. You talked about how you get hype and get ready, which you can play at 8 a.m. Do you have any pregame rituals?
No, my first year here, I had this thing that I would only wear a jacket when we won, that I would wear it the next week. And we lost 11 games, so I ran out of clothes. So that killed the traditions for me. I said, nah, forget that. It's too expensive. We need to start winning games. So my tradition is get my mind ready, because there's decisions you have to make as a head coach during the game. There's things you need to say to key players before the game and your staff. And then at halftime, you have to look at a lot of different things that happened in that first half and try to put it all together in a very short period of time for your staff. And then you have to address your team going back out the second half. And then win or lose, you have to address them afterwards and then come and see you guys. So there's a lot going on game day for a coach. So it's really, really important that you're focused and you've got a grasp of what you feel like is going to happen and things that you feel like you're going to have to decide during the game. And you don't want to make a decision that kills your team.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, Luciano, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for your time. Since 2015, only 5 FBS teams have lost fewer games than App State. Having coached there yourself, what would you say makes them so hard to beat, particularly when they are at home?
They have a tremendous amount of pride in their football program. It's the most important thing in sports at that university. And those fans are passionate. They love their team. And the players feel that way, so they play hard and they play with confidence. And again, I would hope Sparky and I had a little piece of helping get it started, but the credit should all go to Coach Jerry Moore. He did an absolutely amazing job to win 3 national championships and go beat Michigan at Michigan in the opener. That got them started, and now they've been overtime lost to Penn State at Penn State, and they've beaten South Carolina, and they've beaten us, and so they're not afraid of anybody. They have tremendous confidence in their program, which they should have, because they know who they are, they know what they're doing, they're known for something, and they've won 9 or 10 plus games every year since 2014. So they are used to winning. We were like that when we were here before at the end. We thought we'd win every game. We never even thought about losing one. We got that way at Texas. The team that lost the national championship to Alabama was 25-2 after the loss to Alabama. Vince Young was 30-2. I asked Roy Williams one time, our big tall receiver, what's it like when you lose a game at home at Texas? He said, Coach, I've never lost one. So they're that way. They feel like they're going to win, and they play that way. And because of that, they fight to find ways to win, and their program's really further ahead than ours. We're still finding who we are, and we need to find it, and finding it on Saturday morning would be a great addition, because at some point here, we've got to take another step. And people say we took a step back last year. We just didn't play well on the road. So I don't know whether that's a step back or not, but you got to play better, period. And last year's team was inconsistent. So this team has had a good start against a good opponent, better than perceived. They've got better players at Florida A&M than people talked about. We were surprised, and our players were surprised, and they played really hard throughout the game. Now we've got another excellent opponent that's going to play really hard with confidence. It's just on the road. And then we've got another opponent that's the best their program's ever been. They beat Tennessee a few years ago at Georgia State. And we're going to their place. I think we're the only Power 5 team to ever go there. So we've got another week of really exciting football and a challenge on the road. And then we have a week off and then get ready for Notre Dame here. So it's a very unique and unusual schedule, but a very kind of a quietly difficult schedule. But because it's going to make us grow up and grow up fast.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, let's go to Brandon and Marcelo. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was talking to Josh Downs back at ACC Media Days, and obviously there's not a lot of players that were on the team back in 2019, the first matchup against App State. And he said that there wasn't really not a lot of talk in the locker room about that game to get anything motivated going into this season. Has that changed at all going into this week among some of the older guys? Do they bring up what happened in 19?
Brandon, they really don't, but they appreciate the success that Appalachian State has had. They're fully aware. They got a lot of buddies on the team now, because we've got more North Carolina guys now than we did in that first year, because we've recruited North Carolina in this area, Virginia, South Carolina, really, really well. And they've seen App State beat a bunch of teams that are really good. So they saw them go beat South Carolina at night at South Carolina. So I think the mindset is very different now than it was 3 years ago. And we were playing a freshman quarterback then. We're still playing a freshman quarterback now. But they jumped out and absolutely embarrassed us for 3 quarters. And then we came back and fought and had a chance in the end. But they played and coached much better than we did.
Okay, let's go to Brian Murphy.
Thanks Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. Two quick questions. One, I know you mentioned that you had Booster come in and talk to the team. How do you make a decision about who you want to bring in front of the team, and has that had the effect that you wanted it to have?
Brian, what did I mention?
Oh, that you had Booster come and present to the team, the app, the NIL app, that you had them.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, sorry to switch gears on you.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant a Booster, and I was trying to figure out who that was. Come in, so I just misunderstood. Your question was right. Brian, what we're trying to do is stay current and even be aggressive with within the rules with NIL. And Heels for Life just hired a guy named Graham Boone, and he is working hard to move forward in that area. It's still so gray that we can't get involved with it, so I don't know a lot about it. But when you get people through our compliance office that say Booster is a good thing, it can help each one of our players, because I love the concept of group licensing. And if it's something that every player can sign up for and every player could do, it fits the team concept a whole lot more than 3 to 5 players getting some money through opportunities through NIL. So that's something that I felt like was really, really good. I don't know how well it's worked for them. I haven't heard. I can't follow up. I don't. But our kids don't talk a lot about NIL. They're focused on much better than last year, since everybody kind of understands where it is. They're focused on playing better and getting their degree. I told the guys, 800 guys got cut yesterday from the NFL. 800. And they were cutting about 32 before that, and then 5 each week. So when you look at everybody that's playing in America, very few end up playing in the NFL, and the ones that do play very little. So your goal should be to get your degree. Your goal should be to do the best you can do to win all the games. Your goal should be to have fun in life, because I really worry about mental health with these young people. Every day we're seeing somebody take their life that's a young person, and I just hate that. It frightens all of us. And I told them even this morning, I saw a story about the young TV person that was a basketball player, I think at South Florida, that took her life at 27 years old. I said, guys, this is football, man. If you've got any problems in your life, you're worried about anything, come and see us, come and see our counselors. But let's make sure we get it to a point, because Brian, they've got transfer portal now on their mind. They've got NIL on their mind. They've got so many things going anyway. And especially a lot of you have children. I mean, children have a lot going, and they're not ready to make all these decisions that they're having to make now. And that really concerns us. So we try to bring in people to help them and make it easier for them, because they're so overloaded. I mean, again, they got up at 5 this morning. They were practicing. They were meeting with me at 6:30. They got class this afternoon, and they'll be back at it again in the morning at 6:30. So I'm afraid that we've forgotten how hard these young people work. They're really, really special across the country. They do get a scholarship, but man, they work for it and they pay for it. And I don't feel like it's appreciated enough. And I've said this so many times, but even more so in football, where only 11 get to play. So let's say 25 or 30 play a lot on your team. You've got 120. So many of the guys are working that hard, they don't even get to play. So it's the rewards come later in things that you learn and the people that you meet and the advantages you have when you get out. But again, we said those 3 things are your goal. Graduate, win all the games, have fun, those 4 things, and be more prepared for life when you get out of here. Your dream should be the NFL. And if you make it, great. And if you do, you're not going to retire probably based on the NFL. I think 10% of people who play in the NFL retire because of money given to them from the NFL. 10%. So for you to be in that group's not likely. So make sure that your goals are to prepare to set yourself up for your life outside of football.
One other one. There's 3 big in-state games this week. Obviously, you guys are going up to App, and NC State's going to ECU, and a big game between North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central. As someone who recruits this state, there's been a lot of talk about the demise of football or football declining. What's your sense of the state of football in North Carolina? Is it healthy right now?
I think it is. COVID set everybody back, Brian, because some kids couldn't afford to still play. Some of the transition to the spring, trying to play basketball, football, wrestle, run track, it overloaded some of the kids. Some of the coaches in our state don't teach at the school. So COVID set that back some, so they were going. So I do feel like that we've had a little setback here the last couple of years, but I feel like we'll be back, and we'll be back strong. And there's great coaches that believe in the sport in the state. And these games are healthy for the state. Everybody will have a favorite in these games this week, and they'll all be pulling for and against somebody.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, I don't need some really long answer about this, but my question is just basically do you think this is the biggest game in Boone history, in Kid Brewer history, in App State home football history, in terms of considering all the factors in play?
Ross, you would have to ask them, very honestly. That Miami was a huge game up there. They've played Wake Forest up there, which was a huge game. But I think that would be something that Coach Moore, Coach Clark, Doug Gillen, they could answer more than me. I do know that I've got so many friends up there that they're excited about us coming. And like I said, I think I said Winnebago, the RVs were pulling in there on Monday to get ready to tailgate. So that's fun. And this makes it exciting. And excuse me, it'll be fun for these young people. Excuse me. People on both sides of this will remember this the rest of their lives, especially the kids that play in the game.
Yeah. So big, got choked up talking about it.
Yeah. And allergies.
All right. Let's see if we can get one more question through. Adam Smith, go ahead.
Mac, collect yourself now. I don't want to box you in
Adam,
here, but go
Adam,
ahead.
when you stream for 2 hours and you met for another hour and a half before that, and you've got allergies all over the place, you always have to collect yourself. And when you start a question by "you don't want to box me in," that means you're going to. So I heard that part. So at least I know now that I'm going to say no comment.
Right. I could have gone with all due respect, Mac.
Ross, being a smart aleck, saying make this quick and ask for a complicated question. I started to say no comment, but that's I'll save that for yours, Adam.
Ross gets impatient. When we were talking the other day and you mentioned, at that point in your career, at that point in college football, teaching a class when you were at App in '83, was that a physical education class? That's what I was going to say. What course did you teach?
I think it was the theory of football, best I remember. And then each coach had to teach a class. And then we got it where we had one class that we all taught. And I think it was a leadership class. And it was kind of leadership of football. It was fun. It was good. It was something that, as I look back on at an early age, I was overloaded and, man, I don't have time to do that. And now, you love the students on campus, and I try to walk every day and speak to them and see them. And I actually teach a class in the spring. I go once, I lecture for a class. Really a couple of them. We've got a communications class and a leadership class. One's a graduate school, one's undergraduate school. And I lecture to both of those each spring and just love it. And I did that after I quit coaching and was doing TV. I did that for a couple of classes at Texas. So it makes it fun. But I think I was 33. I was overloaded. I was trying to figure out what to do for lunch and how to practice and how many players we had and how do you order helmets and what about equipment and when do they get in and what about a media guide? And so I just remember when they said, You don't have a courtesy car because coaches have always had dealer cars that they get to drive. You don't have a dealer car. You got to go check one out through the state. I didn't know how to do that. I never checked out a state car. So I had to get somebody to help me with that. And then we got dealer cars right after that. And also then they said, and you got to teach class. I said, whoa, I'm a college professor now. And then the other thing that I remember really got me was when they said you can only have 33 out-of-state players. And I said, what if we find a 34th or a 5th that are great players? So that's not in the budget. We can only pay for in-state tuition for this many and out-of-state for that many. And the other thing, Adam, that was really interesting that's all changed now, that was FCS. So you could have so many scholarships, but you could divide them up. So you could have, let's say 95 players at that time. Maybe I won't get the numbers right, but 75 scholarships. So you could give somebody books. You could give somebody training table. So then you had to become an accountant because you're sitting there saying, okay, how many players do you have? And how many ways can you divide these scholarships up? Excuse me. And what's fair. So it was really a learning experience for me.
Do you think with the benefit of 40 years of hindsight now that maybe you're talking about teaching and maybe thinking about it being a burden, because you're trying to go win football games and all that stuff. When you look back on it now, do you think you thought of it as an unnecessary burden that you shouldn't have, or is that the right way to think about it?
Yes. When I walked in, I thought I don't have time.
Right.
Now, when I lecture the classes, I do it in the spring. I try not to do anything during the fall that will disrupt from our chance to win. And so I don't speak. I don't do anything in the fall. And that's really, really important for me. And I learned that from previous experiences. But my job is to win games in the fall and take care of the kids. And that's what I've got to do. In the spring, since you practice 3 days a week, you've got more time and you only have 15 practices and you're not preparing for a game. So I embrace the fact that I can lecture to a group of students now and try to help answer young journalist questions about what was it like as a journalist? What does a coach expect? If I'm in a press conference, what makes you mad? What's a good question? What's a bad question? And all those things are fun. And I love giving back and that just helps me. The other thing with leadership, when you're in trouble and there's a crisis and things happen poorly, how do you handle it? And those are fun things that I like to talk to young people about. So when I went to Appalachian State, I planned on staying there the rest of my life. I love the mountains. I love fishing. I love golf. And I thought that was the perfect spot for me growing up in Cookeville, Tennessee. And then when John Swafford hired me back at North Carolina, one of the reasons I think he hired me was my experience at Appalachian State, because I knew so many of the high school coaches and I was familiar with the state. And that also made me want to come back to the state because I love the state so much. So it was the right decision at the time to go. I felt awful, but I didn't think I had any choice in the difference of $38,500 and $125,000. That it was a hard decision, but an easy professional decision. And I thought I had a much better feel at them to kind of answer more of your question about what being a head coach was at such a young age. And it overloads you. Yeah. And I wasn't even sure I was ready at that point, but I knew now what it was like, so I could go to Oklahoma and prepare a little bit more before I went back to Tulane.
Great, Mack. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time. We're all set. We're all done now. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Travel safe, and we'll see you Saturday at noon.
Thanks, Coach.